So I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we call these management tools. This is basically two ways of using software to run a hotel. There's the old 20th century model we call desktop software, and that runs on Macintosh and Windows. Those are software programs that can be purchased once. They can be used as long as your Mac or Windows supports that version. We run on, Windows 10, Mac OS X, all the latest, versions of both the Microsoft and the Windows platform. And then, of course, there's the browser-based, which is what we call MyPMS. That's our product for web browsers. So that means you can use either a desktop computer or, say, an iPad or an Android device. Those two products, MyPMS and the desktop, are the tools that a hotelier would use for managing their reservations, checking guests in, checking guests out, sending confirmation letters, managing the finances of the stay, so what the room is going to be, the room rates, what the taxes are going to be, getting that folio to display properly. This is called a property management system, and this is the base management tool that all hoteliers need to run their day-to-day business. And there's a lot of features that go into a PMS. Like I said, we've been doing this for 23 years, building in operational procedures into a property management system. And most hotels are using some form of a computer system these days to run their hotel. We have the two models, the web browser-based and the desktop system, because back in the 1990s, for example, there were no browser-based systems. So we still support the Macintosh and Windows clients, although most properties are definitely using browser-based systems these days. I'll tell you some more about what we've done with our desktop system in a while. Now, some properties who don't need that full property management system, they don't need the full check-in and check-out and financial management. They just want to use a channel manager to put in some rooms like queens or suites or doubles, etc., and then sell them through distribution. That's another very simplified property management tool that we sell. I'll get into a little bit of detail about that, but these are the three basic property management tools: the browser-based one, the desktop or client server, and the channel manager, which is also a browser-based tool. The cloud-based one,
not to forget also the fully blown CRM system within the property management system.
Correct.
Because that's also a feature that a lot of clients or hoteliers or service accommodation owners need, a CRM system to manage the clients. So all that is embedded within the PMS system.
That's correct. So, for example, it's pretty common after somebody makes a reservation exam, for example, to automatically send a post, confirmation letter. Maybe a few days prior to arrival, you send a pre-arrival email automatically to, note to them, how to pick up keys, what the check-in sort of process is for the front desk. It's frequent for after a guest has stayed to automatically send a guest maybe a review request for your own review systems that you are using. There's a bunch of third-party review systems, or some of the big ones like TripAdvisor. So CRM is part of a property management system. It's inventory management, financials, CRM, pricing and allocation tools. We'll get into a little bit of that. But it's a nice, simple, graphical user interface that anybody can log into from any device, Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, all the different, browsers, whether you want to do it on your tablet device, like the Apple iPad or an Android device, or even on your mobile phone. We have properties who can manage your entire business. It's a little bit difficult to manage a PMS on a mobile phone, but certainly some of the key features are very normal to use a phone for. So that's the MyPMS system, and I'll demo that if you guys want to later on. This is what we call the desktop system. So this is going back to software that you would install on a Macintosh or a Windows machine. And this can either be connected to other services outside of the property, or it could just be for the property's day-to-day management. Starting about 7 or 8 years ago, hoteliers, for the most part, stopped buying desktop systems because when they purchased them, that means they also had to purchase servers. They took over responsibility for credit card storage and the whole PCI compliance issues around storing credit cards, which, as you know, for the hospitality and hotel industry is a big part of their business. And then the network support and backups and all that stuff. So most people have bought cloud systems these last years because those responsibilities then get put on BookingCenter to perform. And, you know, we've got a 23-year run record of doing that both in a PCI compliant fashion, you know, as well as making sure data is backed up consistently on multiple servers throughout the world. So what we have seen a market need for is a cloud-based business system, but with a desktop backup in the event that internet goes down. So we took our desktop system and we make a slave out of it, so that if you're in an area that's got shady or, you know, not quite confident internet, you can install a Mac or Windows program at the hotel, and within every 15 minutes it sucks down every reservation made, every room assignment made, every charge or payment made, so that in the event that the hotel's internet were to be severed for whatever reason, they would have a local backup system that they could manage their property with. We call that the hybrid PMS. So you're using a cloud for the primary, and then you're using a desktop as a sort of emergency backup system. Of course, all the rest of your, you know, your online bookings and your TripAdvisor reservations and your Expedia and Booking.com, those are all still happening out there on the internet. So when your internet comes back up, all that activity goes right back into the cloud system, so that during your downtime you haven't let the guest be aware that there was any problems whatsoever, even though your internet might have been down for, you know, 1 day, 3 days, a week based upon a storm or whatnot. So we call that the hybrid. You can use the desktop alone, or you can use it as a hybrid in conjunction with the cloud system. Now the other product that we discussed here is what we call the channel manager, and there's a lot of companies around the world who make channel manager products. It's a simple tool for logging in to, you know, create and manage both your room inventory for what you're going to sell as a hotel room, and then the rates. And so, you know, we can, you know, it's a very simple calendar, which is what you're seeing right there, but it's also got very interesting ways to put different rates on different travel sites. And this is an uncommon feature of the BookingCenter Channel Manager. A lot of channel managers, if you have it, like, for example, a double or a king room or a king whirlpool, they have one rate that's available throughout all the channels, same exact rate. But of course, different distribution channels have different commission rates, different business models. BookingCenter lets you have different rates at each one of those different channels should you wish to. So you can put them in relationships to each other to make rate management easy, or you could have very distinct rates. For example, some channel might charge you 20% commission at the hotel. Other channels might have a $2, £2, you know, transaction fee. Other ones might have a combination, so you can fine-tune what rates go to what channels in the BookingCenter system, and that can be, you know, either a room-only rate where you're just paying for, you know, say a double occupancy rate, or it could be a package rate where the rate includes, say, transportation from a train or an airport. It could include, you know, a meal plan, etc. So the channel manager can be very flexible and very particular to the needs of that particular property. Some customers start with the channel manager, and then they upgrade to one of the PMS systems to tie their whole operations together. The channel manager is an easy way for you to get a customer working with a BookingCenter product and then tie that into a property management system after they've got comfortable, you know, and familiarity with the product and the company that's servicing it. Now, when we talk about distribution in the hotel space, in the lodging and accommodations, there's a few big companies now that own a great deal of the distribution of a booking. It's the Priceline Corporation, which owns Booking.com, and then it's the Expedia company, which owns a bunch of brands that, you know, lastminute.com, Opodo. So you know, Europe, Asia, North America, Latin America, they all have different brands, but a lot of them are owned by the similar network companies, and a lot of them are very regionally specific. BookingCenter does 275 specific online travel agencies, which are very niche, you know, from Asia Rooms to Agoda to lastminute.com. And then we do all the travel agency systems, which are commonly called the GDS, or the Global Distribution Systems. So there's about 800,000 travel agents out there that still make reservations. They're diminishing as a percentage of the travel industry, but they're still holding strong in their niche. And then there's OTAs, online travel agents, of which, you know, Booking.com and Expedia are the two most famous brands globally. And we connect to all these. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not an OTA out there. We don't. We do 275, but that's probably about 99.9% of the world's bookings we can get through our distribution channel. And if anybody has any specific distribution channels that we can access, you know, please ask here. Another big part of a property's need is, of course, what we call, in our industry, we call the booking engine. You guys might call it the property's website or their brand direct. And if you talk to most independent hoteliers or even chains and franchises, their goal is to get as many of their travelers to book with them direct as possible. Because, of course, those direct bookings don't have such high commissions, if any commissions. And so the goal for every, .com brand, whether you're, My Inn and Suite or something else, is to get the travelers to book directly with you, your direct websites. And of course, those websites are, the desktop website, but it's also sometimes your Facebook page. It's also sometimes your TripAdvisor listing. BookingCenter supports, all those different sort of interfaces that you can embed into Facebook. You can embed it into your TripAdvisor listing. We track the whole thing with Google Analytics, which is a free tool. If any of you are familiar with how website productivity is tracked, Google Analytics probably offers the most comprehensive and free set of tools. And then with our properties on the desktop, we let them book not only with mobile, so that, when someone comes to their website with a mobile phone or tablet, it changes the environment so that it formats itself properly. But also, with a group booking login, so if you have a hotel property maybe that does business for weddings or for corporate groups, you can let that group manager have access to your allocation block, and they can book the individual people in their group, which is a real time saver for hotels. Or just, the general, hey, I'm at my website, what's available? Rates and availability queries. And I'll be happy to show you guys some examples of BookingCenter booking engines. But suffice to say that literally any aesthetic dream that you have can be done with the BookingCenter booking engine. It's completely flexible with a full XML web service. So we have very simple ways of doing booking engines and all the way to an extremely customized approach to it. And then we have built marketing and yielding tools so that you can see from where visitors have come from on the internet to find your website. Of the people that came from a website, how many of them actually checked availability? And of those that checked availability, how many actually made bookings? So this is the thing that Google Analytics will help with, as well as our own tools, to track how successful your brand's marketing dollars are. Because of course, a hotel is going to give some money for search engine optimization or search engine marketing. They want to know how successful those investments have been in terms of links back to their website, clicks to maybe their rooms pages, and then ultimately into making a request for rate availability all the way to confirm reservation. And in addition to that, we've produced we produce some very strong yield management tools. And in our industry, in the hotel industry, a yield management means change my rates when certain conditions are met. This is it's an advanced type of tool. Your average innkeeper is not necessarily going to turn on yield management because they tightly control their own rates themselves. But people who do, think very proactively can set rules such as 2 weeks out, if my occupancy is greater than 70%, then discount my rates on Booking.com by 5% or 10%. If my occupancy is less than 5%, right, then maybe discount them by a great amount. If my occupancy is very high, then maybe increase my rates. So you can run last-minute deals this way. You can run long-term occupancy-based thresholds this way. And then BookingCenter every hour is actually going through and looking to see, is your rule based upon either time or occupancy being met? And if so, change the rates yielded to the different channels. In this example, you can see that we've got front desk, Expedia, Booking.com, etc. You could turn on yield for just your hotel staff, which is what we would call your front desk. You could turn on for just your website. You could turn on for just Booking.com, or you could turn on for any combination. And different rules can be in place for different destinations. It's a fairly complex business set of concepts to understand and to get your customers to utilize. But once they turn these tools on, they really start really using pricing intelligently in all their different channels of distribution. In addition to our own yield management, we also interface with other yield management systems out there. So there's third-party companies who have really fancy algorithms that runs a business unit. They can not only take your occupancy trends, but they can actually take your marketplace and then they can make recommendations on rates, and then those rates can change inside BookingCenter to change your rates, for your front desk, your website, Expedia, Booking.com, etc. So whether you use our tools or whether you use other people's tools, we have open APIs to allow these systems to perform the marketing look-to-book analysis or the yielding that your properties want to get the most out of their rooms based upon their time and or occupancy patterns. So that's the mainstay of the tool set, and I gave a good 20-minute presentation there about what we do from property management tools to the distribution channels to the booking engines and getting properties to have bookings direct, and then what properties can do to improve their marketing and improve their yielding of their rates. And at this time, if there's any questions, love to answer the questions directly or get into some details about some of these products and services that we just introduced. Anything come up here, Erica, that anybody's asked? Anybody? Any questions so far? Well, I want to make it clear that everything that we've talked about today is available in significantly more detail at our website, BookingCenter.com, and BookingCenter can be spelled like a Brit or an American. We do the RE and the ER.com, so feel free to go to either destination there. And then a lot of what I covered was here under our product. And then what I didn't show you is all the different interfaces that we can do to make properties, manage seamlessly, whether it's connecting to restaurant, bar, and point-of-sale systems, or yield management tools, or phone systems, etc. There's many, many years of interfacing and evolution here that the core system can provide. Vasilis, would you like to give sort of a synopsis of how this has worked for you and what you think the Mastermind crew might want from it?
Yes, actually, I'm going to refer to a question Jason asked. It's regarding how they accept payments, so PCI and etc., and what payment gateways we can support.
Okay, so we support a couple of different payment gateways. So we have first our own gateway. Secondly, we use AuthorizeNet, which supports the UK pound as well as the euro and some others. So you can pretty much turn almost any merchant account into a gateway support for BookingCenter. If you want the full hotel rates, which is called lodging rates, which is the whole swipe and authorization management, all that stuff, then we have 3 processors that we're PCI certified for: Vital, VisaNet, and TSYS, if you guys know those. And those work with a number of banks, Chase, RBC. There's a lot of banks. So there's either direct ways that you can use our embedded tools for payment processing, or we can use payment gateways like Pay and Go or AuthorizeNet, which support, I believe, just about all the UK banks.
Actually, yes, AuthorizeNet supports all the UK banks.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of showing our attendees the cloud-based system, a demo, a quick overview on how people can use it for their property?
Sure. Well, what you guys will do if you follow up with our with the email that we're going to send is you're going to end up being in a system right here that we call MyPMS.BookingCenter.com. And when you log into it, you're going to be here on the front desk. Okay? And this is a demo hotel that we keep current just about every day. You can see that today it's on November 28th. Okay? This demo property has a few arrivals still to arrive. They haven't come in yet. We have a number of people in-house, 3 guests in-house, and 1 scheduled for departure today. So this is what we call the front desk, which is sort of the hub of where people usually end up. This is where you can search for reservations. This is where you can choose guests and associate any kind of charges to them, such as food, beverage, transportation, whatnot, without having to go in their folios. Little hotel summary. right here, who's still remaining to arrive, depart, etc. Little pass-on log where you can send messages amongst the staff so that you don't have to have a little piece of paper, little scraps of paper. It can be a maintenance request system. There's many features of the pass-on log. And then down here, you're seeing that we have a little online user, so you can see who's actually logged in. Right now, I'm logged in right here as this user, and you can see that I'm at this particular MyPMS demo hotel. Now, my user has access to other hotels, so I can also pop back into some other hotels that I'm playing with, right? So if you are a multi-property situation where you've got more than one property, one login can get you access to all your properties. The login that you do will determine your language. For example, I'm experienced in English, as I'm sure you folks will mostly as well, but you can also choose Italian, Portuguese, French, Spanish, German, Dutch, Russian. So there's a number of languages that we can support. And of course, the whole system just translates based upon the user. So one user can experience it in Spanish, another person can experience it in English. And that user gives you control, gives you features. So for example, some people, this has full availability. But if I wanted to make an overbooking on a day that there was no room type availability, and I have the privilege for overbooking, I can do that. If I want to make a manual rate, so for example, if I'm going to make a 3-day reservation here in a king with a fireplace room here, I could go ahead and choose manual, and instead of choosing $100, I could make this one, $56, for example. So manual is given as a privilege for certain users as well. Now, I'm showing you folks what we call book by availability. This is a calendar of what we call room types. So this is showing you how many rooms are available on these given days. And if you want to make a reservation, you just go ahead and click on here, and you can make very complex reservations, right? Moving from room to room to room. Of course, these all have different rates, during the stay, etc. There's another view here, which people are fairly, commonly used, what we call the tape chart. The tape chart is a list of rooms, and these rooms can, you can have preset amenities like, smoking, animal, pet-friendly, children, disability accessible, etc. And then this is showing you this room right here, for example, room 210, it's unoccupied. This is showing you how many, because this is room 210, which is part of a king with fireplace, with view of the meadows. This is how many of those types are available each day. Now, if I've got a reservation like right here, this Bob Jones, I can drag and drop that to another room, no problem, right? I can even drive him to another room type, right? So I can bring him down here to a 2 double beds. Okay, now 2 double beds, might have a different room, a different rate. So I could do that and drag this particular user between rooms and room types. Sometimes they'll have different rates, sometimes they won't. But this is a view of your, what the hoteliers would call a tape. And sometimes you want to use 15 days. Sometimes people want to use, 25-day views. Sometimes you want to use, 40-day views. You can set your default, and you can make this presentation of the information as wide as you want. The only problem becomes it just gets too much data on the screen at one time. Okay, we could go to, we could say, hey, what's it looking like, around January for 40 days, and you can look at, your future calendar as well. So this is a pretty common view called a tape chart, and this is another way you can make reservations. So, I could just click and start a booking this way. In BookingCenter, every time you start to type in a guest last name, you start to get a list of guests that can map to that, so that you don't end up creating multiple guests of the same type. And there's lots of ways to make reservations. You can book into groups, so that groups already might have reservation, or they might have availability that is unique to that particular group. May 2017. That's too far out for me. Let's go something a little bit closer. Looks like I have no availability for 2 people for some reason. Here's the problem with doing, well, the inquiry is not showing me that. So there's ways to allocate what we call availability to the system right here. And This allows a manager to have some rooms and rates for distribution that might be different for the front desk operators, because you don't want your reservation staff sometimes being complicated by all the different rates that are available. In this case, we have a double at a double rate, a DBL rate, a standard flat rate, etc. You can get more information about the particular rooms by opening the windows right here, or you could just make a booking for these days for that particular room. So that room could be any of these rooms that are the 2 double beds right here. So for example, room 314 would be available for that length of stay. This restriction is telling us that had a minimum stay of 7 nights. So the 3 general ways of making reservations: book by inquiry, book by availability, which if you were to go to a university and learn hotel management, they would tell you to use this primarily, so that you are making bookings for a category of room, but not actually assigning a specific room until closer to arrival. This will let you maximize your availability and not end up with a tape chart that's got a bunch of 1- and 2-day reservations with no room open that could say, occupy a 7-day stay. So the tape chart is wonderful for dealing with now to the next 7 to 10 days, and the availability chart is usually what people use for the future, making reservations, and then to do actual room assignments where you're actually putting a reservation into a room closer to arrival. You'll notice some systems only have one or the other, either a tape chart or availability. BookingCenter lets a property manage both ways. We've also got very, very powerful group bookings, which allow you to set allocations so that you are booking specific rooms at specific rates for that group, and whether the property books them or the group books themselves through their website is up to them. And then there's a whole suite of reports in here, and all of our reports come as HTML. So for example, if you do an arrivals report right here, it comes as HTML by default here, but you can see that you can also make these reports XLSs or CSVs, so that if people wanted to graph them or chart them, then you can do that. And as I've said, we've been at this business for 23 years, so this reports list is pretty exhaustive, and each one of them has sub-reporting capabilities. And of course, BookingCenter has, custom report creation abilities as well if you guys found a property that needed specific reports. So this is our flagship product that most people use these days, the cloud-based system. And like I said, some of them tie this in with the desktop as a hybrid PMS, but most people are using this cloud-based system. And I recommend you guys to go play with this as a demo on your own, or set up a demo one-on-one with the BookingCenter crew, and we're happy to lead you through it. Any other questions come up here, Vasilis or Erica?
Jeff, hi, this is Erica. I'm part of the BookingCenter team. I was just wondering if you could talk about setup options and training and how easy it is to customize the system to your hotel.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways of doing setup. One is that the customer can do it themselves. We have a setup wizard whereby they don't have to pay BookingCenter to set the property up. They can try it for free for 30 days. They can even connect it to their website. They can connect it to Booking.com and Expedia. We can't do everything. We can't connect it to, like, for example, payment gateways. There's some things we can't do in the demo evaluation mode. But they can try it themselves, or they can set themselves up and not pay us any setup fees, and then just start paying once they decide to use the system or after 30 days. The second way, and this is most applicable for people who don't have any experience in setting these systems up, or have have restaurant and bar systems, perhaps they have phone systems, they have a lot of data they want to convert from their old systems. We will do a full concierge. We'll take that data from their past system, whatever electronic form it's in. We'll do the setup. We'll do the training. We do the training quite similar to how we're doing this right now. We set up little go-to-meeting sessions between the staff, so the staff doesn't even have to be at the hotel. They can be anywhere they want. And we take, trainings usually are 3 to 4 hours day 1, 2 or 3 hours day 2, 2 hours day 3. That allows BookingCenter to set everything up, fine-tune it, and then teach the staff best practices. So in summary, there's the self-setup option, which which you can do on your own without paying any fees, or there's the full setup option. With the full setup and training option, BookingCenter charges $1,200 US for that service. And we'll guarantee that that has been delivered within 2 weeks. So those are 2 different options. Anybody can go and try it themselves. Any other questions? Vasilis or Erica?
Tim, shall we go a little bit more on more details regarding the channel manager and the distribution? Because as you know, distribution is key nowadays. You know, people need to have maximum visibility for any property, or else you could potentially be losing bookings.
Right. I mean, it's only going to get more relevant as the days go on, having to be in different distribution. Now, it's a pretty complex world out there. There's certain distribution that relates to governments and corporations. There's other ones that relate to travel agency and groups of travel agents. And there's the ones that we all know of because we're consumers that are focusing directly on the consumer market. So, the 2 biggest consumer sites, like we said earlier, are owned by Booking.com and Expedia. Those are necessities. But then you get into specific, programs like consortia. I could go into detail about consortia, which are very specific groupings of travel agents that focus in on specific types of properties. For example, high-end luxury, self-catering, near major corporations, for example, that they do business with. So consortia are groups of agents that focus in on specific properties. When you have properties that might conform to that model, then those are wonderful programs to participate in. There's the GDS system, which we've talked about, which is what we call the global distribution system. These are the big traditional GDS providers. I recommend almost all properties be in them, even if you don't get a lot of reservations. That exposure leads both travel agents and consumers to find and know you. There's MetaSearch. MetaSearch is, for example, Trivago, the Google keyword stuff, all the hotel finder they're calling in Google these days. These are people who just type in lodging in Leicester, or lodging in the West End of London, and then properties can pay to have preferred listings and even show their rates and availability on these MetaSearch sites. Another example of that is TripAdvisor. So that when you go to TripAdvisor, if you're participating in, say, Booking.com, will always try to send a guest to book at TripAdvisor at Booking.com or Expedia because they make a commission. Expedia and Booking.com share that commission with TripAdvisor. But you can also get into a meta search program with TripAdvisor so that they don't send you to Booking.com or Expedia to get the commission. Instead, they pull the rooms and rates right out of BookingCenter. That saves the property some money, quite frankly. And there's a number of of meta search engines that BookingCenter connects to. Negotiated rates. These are programs such as AAA or Smith Travel, bed banks, some of you might know them as. These are specific groups out there that will only do business with people that have been vetted and approved by them. And BookingCenter can load a negotiated rate into any negotiated rate system. So whether it's corporate, military, government, et cetera, it can do that. We talked a little about consortia programs already. But the big ones that your folks are going to do are mostly the OTAs. The OTAs are all about the consumer marketing. And Britain's a very global destination. So properties that want to have some incremental business go ahead and list themselves in properties and to OTAs like WOTIF in Australia, or Agoda for the China, Indonesian, Japanese market, or Zuji, specific to the Japanese market. So the more of these OTAs that your properties participate in, those are the tools that those consumers and business people use in their own countries to plan travel to Great Britain. So it's within your best interest, basically, to join as many of those niche OTAs as possible. Any other questions you want me to go over about those types of distribution programs, Vasilis, or is that covered from a broad perspective.
And one of the things I liked it was the connectivity that I was giving the option to airlines to book their pilots during their stay on the local resort, example at ours, because our hotel was nearby the airport, so they could easily book the pilots on, whereas before we didn't have access to that market.
So that's a classic negotiated rate. So let's just say that you're an employee for, British Air. You have to travel on British Air approved hotels. If your property loads a British Air rate, right? So you obviously have to go through a little bit of an approval process that British Air wants to invite you. But once you're invited, only British Air employees can see that rate. They use a little tool in their own company intranet that when they're traveling, as long as your property comes up under their British Air profile, that they can book you and they can stay there, and then it's all managed through their travel department. You're an approved vendor, and usually, sometimes there's commissions, but usually those are commission-free bookings because you are given some sort of an amenity or sometimes a discount for the British Air business. And of course,
Exactly.
Global corporations work the same way, whether it's British Petroleum, whether it's AT&T, Apple Computer, whatever. They all have their own negotiated corporate sort of programs like that. And if you've got any of those businesses in and around your area, then those are very lucrative, day in, day out, shoulder season, low season kind of travel that you want to make sure that your properties are connected to. Any other questions coming over the pipeline?
I don't see any coming in specifically, but I was just going to mention with the connections that the rates and availability are seamlessly updated. Do you want to talk about that, the connection?
Yeah. So when you are in a product of BookingCenters, like this system, right? And you are going to go to a rate, right? Let's just say that this rate for this day is $133.33. If I make this $120 and I click Update Rate, immediately now we have just updated that particular rate, which is right here, right? The corporate suite rate. Wherever the corporate suite rate was displaying, it just got a rate update. So it happens in real time, whether it's Booking.com, Expedia, travel agent, negotiated rate, whatever it might be, right? Your front desk, your website. You can manage a single rate, that easily. Or you can manage, a group of rates. You could say, look, I want to do, my king, my corporate, and my, my demo, my suite, and you can choose multiple rates and say, okay, I want to change all these rates between this day, and you can choose whether you want to increase them by a percentage, want to increase them. I mean, this one says dollar because this property right now is in dollar. This would say pounds if you were in the British pounds, or a preset pound amount. So you could update a single rate, a single day, or a whole group of rates. The minute you click Save, all those rate updates just happened automatically. And the same thing happens for your availability, which we would call room inventory. Every time a property makes a reservation, it debits down that availability everywhere. Every time you cancel a reservation, it opens that availability up. Every time you modify a booking, it modifies inventory accordingly, so that everything's always kept in sync. So rates and availability, and I don't know how many of you deal with Booking.com, for example. There's a lot of communication. So if I as a traveler book a property at Vasilis's Greek resort, before I arrive, I might make 7 comments to Vasilis. I might tell him that I like red wine. Can he recommend a good winery to see when I'm in the area? I'm traveling with my girlfriend. Oops, my girlfriend broke up with me. Now I have a new girlfriend I'm bringing. Can you take pets? All these comments that are constantly coming between the traveler and the supplier, all that stuff is interfaced in BookingCenter, so that the front desk staff only has to deal with what they have to deal with, right? Just the fact that Vasilis updated his girlfriend's name is of no concern, doesn't even require a response. But the question about a winery, that might necessitate a response from your staff. All of those modifications, notes, and messages are all completed through the interface, really reducing complexity and all the emails staff has to handle, so they can focus more and more on what their job is, to be polite to in-house guests to make the experience for the people there as great as possible, and let all that chatter of the internet and what's available and here's my girlfriend's new name, let all that chatter disappear. Let the systems handle that.
A single platform for either one property or multiple properties, which is very good as productivity tool as well.
Yeah, it's a necessity in this day and age, and it's only going to become, you know, more and more needed to have integrated systems like this for the whole operation. And it's a very affordable system. Anybody have any other questions? We've gone a little bit longer than we were planning to today, but we're happy to answer more questions. As we said, we're going to send out a sum of this meeting with the link to this presentation, and we will also send out a request if anybody would like a follow-up webinar or a specific one-on-one demo. Our crew is happy to put that together with you.
We are more than happy to assist anyone out, show the whole productivity tool or property management system with all the things that it can cover. And there's loads of things that it can cover.